What's going on, guys? So today we have a pretty awesome project. I got my father out here with his Forest River Georgetown Class A motorhome, and we are going to be doing something that is absolutely needed for this RV. The manufacturers put a pretty terrible sounding stereo system in here. Not the stereo system for when you're camping and you're hooked up to full connections, but the one for when you're driving down the road having to listen to a Ford V10 screaming at you up front, and you want to try to either hear your Bluetooth over it or you simply want to hear radio. It's just not easily able to overpower the sound you pick up from the engine and transmission yelling at you the entire time. So we are going to install a pretty cool setup out here, and hopefully it's not going to be too difficult. We tried to make this as modular as possible, so we're simply adding versus having to replace stuff. It's going to make things a lot easier, and it gives us also the ability to use slightly better components. But let me show you what we're going to be doing today and some of the equipment we'll be using. Hang tight, I'll be right back. Okay, so stepping inside, you can see the dash is already in some form of disassembly. Hey, so you got your reel link in. Has that thing been working well for you?
Very good.
So he uses this to basically keep an eye on the inside of his RV. He's got a wireless hotspot. He used the solar panel up near the front, so that's keeping it charged, and he can have pan tilt capability with this reel link camera. I have like 14 of these things around my property, and they are absolutely fantastic. Plus you get good audio out of them. He's got the dash taken apart. You can see on this side, he's got the camera view screen up here. He's got this radio down here, which is also a DVD player. And then the speakers, so I believe you have, okay, so you've got one speaker up here. Those look to be about maybe all of 1.5 inches in terms of the internal speaker. The outside here is probably about 2 inches. I see how they ran the cord to it right there as well on each side.
That's the solar on the roof.
Oh, okay, so this is actually going to the solar on the roof. You just went through the same hole right there. So the wires are all ran under this padded cover, or non-padded cover. And your front speakers are where? So do you have front speakers?
These are the front speakers.
Oh, that's where you hear your music from your radio? Yes. From up here?
Yes.
That's terrible.
Well, the other two are back there.
Okay, so the other two, so they're further to the back, and it's surround sound meant for the TV entertainment system, so you can watch TV and have a level of surround sound with it. Okay, so what we want to do is, and the subwoofer's down here?
Yes.
Okay, well that's an interesting subwoofer. We'll see how that sounds. And we have a power amp that we're going to be adding to all this as well. So what will be nice is, with some of the speakers and equipment we're putting in, he's going to get sound in a better spot. And let's take a look at some of that stuff real quick. Okay, so here's a few pieces that'll actually be going in the new motorhome. So we have this Jenson powered amplifier. You probably saw this on the channel when we installed this exact same setup in the back of my dad's 73 Ford Super Camper Special behind the seat. Works really, really well. It's a powered amplifier. You have your included wiring harness for it and everything. This should work really, really well in the RV to get them some good powered bass response. We have these really cool Jenson speaker pods. When I first got these, I thought that they were going to come across really cheap looking, really insignificant and light. But they actually have a good amount of weight to them. They have a fair size open kind of back to it. They have, again, a lot of weight, 60 watt max at 4 ohms, good size magnet on these things, and we have 4 of these. So we'll be replacing the factory speakers with these, and I think that that's going to give us a lot of really, really good sound inside of the RV, depending on where we put these. This Furrion amplifier is a 600 watt 2-channel amplifier. It has crossover built into it. We don't know if we're going to use this. So this was from eTrailer.com. If we can get this configured in a way that works well for 2 channels, maybe bridging it to 4 channels, we may end up using this, but we may not use this for this application. I also got this, actually bought this off Amazon. This is a recoil 4-channel amp. It's actually a pretty small amp. You know, whenever you compare it against like really high quality amplifiers, it's probably not going to compete real well. But when we look at the specs and we look at the RMS power that this thing produces, it produces, where did we see this? Right here, 80 watts by 4 at 4 ohms. And that's RMS power. So that's going to be more than enough to drive these specific speakers, which again are 65 watt or 60 watt max speakers. And I think we will probably be able to match that up pretty dang well. And the size of the amp being really, really compact, plus the fact that it has really, really good reviews. this should be a pretty good application for what we're trying to do. Again, on the fence about using this one. We may not use this one for this specific application, but it is really nice to see that the folks over at Furrion make a pretty dang high quality amp. And again, this doesn't say like 2,000 watts, it's 600 watts, and it's a 2-channel amp, so this thing probably puts out actual power. I looked at the back of it earlier, and it's got a good number of capacitors inside of it, and this may actually be a pretty high quality amplifier in the big scheme of things. That said, at this point, we're looking at speaker placement. We're looking to see where we can put these in the RV. Do we just swap out the speakers that are in there, or do we try to find a new location for them? It's hard to say at this point, but yeah, we're gonna find a good mounting location for them and get the speakers at least installed. Okay, so we removed one of the speakers from the housing. You put your 2 little mounting screws in here, and the housing itself is easily able to mount from the inside now, so we can actually fasten this to the ceiling without having to use the type of mounting that they prefer, which is coming in from the top and going into the speaker. And that should work real well for our application, so it's nice to know when you take the speaker off, you actually have a good amount of space. That's not a bad looking speaker. It's got a nice foam surround to it. And this is made by ASA Electronics. Very cool. Okay, so my dad's in here removing his factory speaker. Kind of stuck in there? Or is it where the cord goes in, probably, the wires?
The cord comes in from the end and it's...
You can't just pop that side down?
I don't know. Maybe.
Looks like it's coming. There you go. Okay. So we got our speaker wires right here. River Park. Huh. Okay. Well, we don't need to really mess with the hole at all. That's where the wires are going to go back in. And this will actually kind of act as a bit of an enclosure for the speakers as well. So we should get some reasonable bass response over these tiny little things.
Might be able to reuse these screws too that we're holding it.
It's true. And you got a good amount of plywood right here too to go through, so I don't think we have any risk that they're going to pull out. All right. Okay, so we have the speaker connected and it sounds significantly better. That said though, we have to kind of figure out the smart way to put this, because the factory speakers were facing straight down, which means you would have sound in the back and sound up front. But because these are directional, what we're going to do is we're going to face them. So this one right here is pretty much facing the passenger seat, and that one's going to be facing the driver. These are the rear channels for the TV, so it's not too important to have these facing directly at you. And the speakers that will be going up here, one will face this way and the other one will face this way as well, so you'll get really good sound coming towards the back. That's the AC we just recently installed too, where there used to be a vent hole. Anyways, let's get the speaker mounted. Okay, so we have the first speaker mounted. If you want to go ahead and pull the slide in, so we just make sure it's all clear. We may need to cut that other speaker back there down real quick just so we don't hit it, because it's just hanging. Unless you just want to shove it back in there for a second. And he's going to pull the slide in just so we make sure there's no contact. It looks like it comes up just a hair. It's clearing it. Okay, you can stop. Go ahead and bring it back out. Yep, about 1/4 of an inch. Which is fine, because when it's in, there's no chance the trim's going to hit, and when it's out, there's no chance the trim's going to hit. So we're in good shape. Okay, so we have all the speakers connected. That was actually relatively simple. These are pointing straight back, and the 2 up front are pointed at an angle, mainly for the driver and passenger, so they can hear sounds, because if we pointed this one directly forward, then you're not really going to hear it as much when you're sitting on the couch trying to listen to a movie through the DVD player on the TV, which is behind me. So it's kind of like cross-connected here. We could have probably put some on the dash, but my dad really wanted to utilize the existing wire runs that were in place and not have to run a bunch more, just to have some holes in the ceiling. So I wanted to respect that, and we simply, again, swap the speakers out. We're going to turn it on, but because I don't want a copyright violation, I am going to not actually play the music, but I'll tell you how it sounds after we listen to it. And this is before we've installed the amplifier. Okay, so honest opinion, we took these speakers out. These are super small. I mean, of course, there's a plastic housing, but inside of there, the speaker only looks to be about probably an inch, maybe an inch and a half. These would definitely be tweeters. These are your high frequency speakers, and when we first came in and listened to them, they definitely sounded like they were high frequency only without any support from the sub, which is disconnected. How do you think these sound in comparison?
It's day and night right now. I mean, these actually have some tone and some bass to them, which those little ones had zero bass of any kind.
Yeah, we're certainly picking up a lot more mid-range frequencies out of these than we were out of the other speakers, which were giving us none. So what we're going to do now is we're going to install that 4-channel amplifier to really provide a much better signal to these speakers. A lot of people think when they hear static and distortion out of a speaker, it's because the speaker's being overpowered. But what they don't realize in many cases is that you're underpowering the speaker. And what you're doing is as you turn the volume up, you're actually amplifying or pushing out more noise at the same time to the speaker. The benefit of an amplifier is that you can keep the volume at a manageable range, and as you turn it up, you're not nearly having to turn it up as high, and you're only amplifying the non-noisy version, essentially the part that doesn't have static or distortion or any of that built into it. So you're keeping the volume level from an amplifier perspective at a very manageable level, and you're providing the right amount of clean signal to the speakers so they can play back the way they're supposed to, and you're not simply just underpowering them but cranking the volume so high that you're picking up all of that rattling and distortion and crazy noise. So that's the goal of installing the amplifier here, is that we give a cleaner signal path that's amplified through the speaker, so we don't have to turn the volume up nearly as high, and the sound quality is significantly better. Okay, so we are behind the stereo here now, and I need to cut all of my speaker wires loose. These are the factory high output, basically powered speaker wires that are feeding to each individual speaker. We're not going to use those anymore, but the outputs going to the speakers we will need to come from the amplifier. So these, the speaker wires that is, will actually go to the outputs right here, and then we're going to run RCA cables from here. There's only 2-channel for output on the RCA cables, so we're going to run 2 RCA sets to a splitter, and the splitter is going to go into the 4 channels on this 4-channel amplifier, and that's going to essentially be how we get this wired up the way we're going to need to wire it up, which means there's no surround sound here because we're just replicating the front and the rear channels using an RCA splitter. But we're going to start cutting some of these. Thankfully they're all wired, or they're all labeled, I mean, so we can actually see what wires go where, and that'll at least give us a little bit of guidance. Okay, so we are pretty much done. It is a significant difference. That Jenson power subwoofer that we have right over here rocks. I mean, it really blows me away. Dad, do you agree? Like, when we plug this thing in, it's so small that you're like, there's no way this thing's going to sound good at all.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising.
Yeah,
how much bass comes out.
And we have the gain turned down really low. We have it kind of matched into the amplifier here. Yellow's power, black is ground, and blue is remote. The wire that goes straight into it, this is their wiring harness. It's super thin wire too, so it's kind of crazy. And this is a marine grade speaker apparently, so all the connections are like sealed rubber connections. But it is much thinner than this box that we removed right over here with that subwoofer on it. I was actually thinking about using this old Furrion Amp. If you guys remember the channel from a long time ago, I installed that in my 2016 450 Platinum I had a long time ago. But the onboard amplifier here, the fact that it takes up significantly less space, it sounds really good, and it's got all the controls that they'll need. Plus, we're using a line output converter. The only thing that we need to get, and we need to order some, are going to be some RCA splitter cables right here that are male on one end and female on the other end. But these are 4 male or 3 male connections right here, and that's not going to work for us because we have to split the stereo output from here so it can go into the 4 channels on here. But that's something my dad can probably do. That's a really easy thing. You just pop it out and you plug those in and then plug it into the bottom here, and then you'll be good to go. But at this point, all we're going to do is put everything away, hide it all, get it out of the way. We may use Velcro for some of this stuff to keep it in place, but we're pretty much set. So we'll go ahead and clean all this up, and then we'll come back and wrap up the video. Okay, so here we go. Look at that. It is all set up. Subwoofer is neatly mounted to the side. It takes up probably 8 inches less than it did before. That other box stuck out like 10 inches off the side there, and this sticks off only about maybe 2.5 inches. So maybe like 7.5 inches less than the old box. Everything is back in place. It looks really good. Let's see, we can turn that on. Should turn the radio on briefly. Sounds really good. So yeah, this was kind of a chore. It wasn't too difficult, but it wasn't too hard. I'm going to tell you, it's a lot easier than working on like a pickup truck or a car where trying to get wires behind door panels and behind dashes is a lot more difficult. The fact is that because he already had speakers here and we were already using those locations and we weren't adding new locations, really made this job pretty simple. It ended up being a relatively long job only because we had to run the new power wire to the house battery, which is on the other side of this panel right here, and that takes a little while, right? Getting the wire ran, getting it the way we want it. But overall, I would say that this is probably like a 3 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. If you're not used to doing 12-volt electronics, you could probably still knock this out, but you'd have to definitely, you know, understand your power ground remote wires, what's different between like 110 or 120 wiring versus 12-volt wiring in terms of what colors things are. And then also understanding, you know, your line outs from your radio, what they need to connect to, as well as your high level outputs, which are going to be your powered speaker outputs, and your low level outputs, which are going to be like RCA connections that you feed to amplifiers. That said, we have the Jenson sub, courtesy of eTrailer. We have these really, really cool, I think they're Jenson now, but they're manufactured by ASA Electronics, but we have these really cool 4.5 inch, I think they're 4.5 inch speakers, mid-range speakers, all the way around. They have a cone tweeter in the center, so it's not going to be like super, super high fidelity in terms of your high frequency response. But what's really cool about this is the fact that they have their own pod. This is something when you typically deal with car stereo, you don't have access to. You have to create them or you have to mold them in somewhere. But on RVs, something like this doesn't look bad at all. Whereas like in a vehicle, you can't just put one of these on the dash of your vehicle and expect it to look really, really cosmetically great. That said, we're done. We wrapped this up. The only thing that we actually have to do is get those splitter RCA cables. He now only needs 2 of them, not 3, simply because we have the LOA, line output converter, that's converting the speaker wires to, or the rear speaker wires to the RCA connection that subwoofer needs. So we need the 2 other male to double female connectors so we can get the rear 2 channels of that amplifier working. But I'm going to be honest with you, that amplifier is kind of blowing me away in terms of the power output you're getting for the price. Yeah, it's actually doing a great job powering the speakers up, and everything sounds really good. That said, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed the video. I will put links to all of this stuff in the description if this is something you may be interested in doing yourself. Cool thing about RV dashes and Class A's like this is it's pretty much hollow back there. I mean, you have access to everything. You can put your head under there and there's a whole cavity that you have access to back there. You're not figuring out how to route wires from there to there because there's 1,000 things blocking it. Everything is really, really easy to access because of the simplicity of how they build these things, honestly. Anyway, sure hope you enjoyed the video. Again, links to the all the stuff in the description. Big shout out to eTrailer. They carry these speakers almost exclusively. They carry that amplifier almost exclusively, and that's a weatherproof amplifier, I believe. It's a marine grade amplifier, so that is really cool. And yeah, they carry all sorts of other stuff. They don't have a huge selection of power amplifiers though. It's a pretty limited selection, so that's the reason why I went to Amazon and picked up a 4-channel low-cost amplifier that had really good reviews, and I'll also throw that in the description. Anyway, sure hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.